Chantal, thank you so much for joining me today. And
Thank you for having me.
I'm really interested to know about your journey to France and what you're doing here. So, can you tell me first about where you live in France and a little bit about the area, please?
Sure. I live in the Lot region, which is in what they used to call the Midi-Pyrénées, but they've now changed it to Occitanie. So the region is bigger now, and they call it Occitanie, which is an hour and a half north of Toulouse. So if you go from Bordeaux to Toulouse, it's sort of in the middle between the two, but I'm closer to Toulouse than I am to Bordeaux. But I'm 2 hours from Bordeaux on the TGV line, an hour and a half from Toulouse on the regular. So I'm in the southwest, which is a lovely region. And here it's known for the wine, the Malbec wine. And it's a beautiful place. It's very country. There's a lot of hills. There's a lot of greenery. There's a lot of rocks. People do a lot of sports as well. They do things like paragliding. My boyfriend's a paraglider, and it's a rural country, but it's really lovely. Yeah, so it's really nice. And I've been living here. I came to this country in 1994 because for two reasons. I had wanted to buy a house in London at the time, but the prices were just very difficult to get a mortgage for. And so it was like life was saying to me, look somewhere else. And at the time it was between Spain and coming to this country. And I felt much more pulled to come to France than I did to Spain. And so actually I made an appointment to visit more in the south area. I wanted to originally be near Aix-en-Provence, but the last minute there were no more tickets, so they only had Toulouse left. So my boyfriend at the time and we said, okay, we'll go to Toulouse, and we made some appointments with some estate agents, and we came over and we found our first house that way. And that's how I actually came to be in the region, the southwest region, instead of the southeast region. And so I've been here since 1994, and it's been really lovely. I've moved, when was it, in the year 2000, I moved to Sète, which is a half hour from Montpellier. And then I moved back here. I bought my house here at the end of 2004. And I've been here for a long journey now. So it's been great.
Why did you feel more drawn towards France compared to Spain?
Yeah, I think because Spain, well, firstly, because I did 2 years of French in high school. So I had the language of French. I also felt very drawn to the French language and the French culture. It was more of an intuitive feeling and something I always felt drawn to. And Spain, Spain is lovely, but not speaking the language, and it would be that much hotter weather-wise.
How long did it take you to become fluent in French?
Yeah, I am fluent now. Well, the 2 years of high school French really helped me, so that when I arrived in January 1994, obviously I hardly understood a single word in French, particularly with the local Southwest accent. So what I did was, we had brought over a television, which at the time in 1994, it was a bit advanced. When you watched programs on the French television, you could have the words in French subtitled. So you could watch in French, read it in French. And because I had the 2 years of French, I was able to understand it. And as you're watching and reading, it's going through your mind. So in 6 months, I was fluent, but that was because of my 2 years before. But that really helped. And also, I would go shopping. I wasn't nervous about going shopping on my own. And a language is music. So when you're going in to the shops or to the post office, or you're just sitting outside on a park bench or something, you're unconsciously listening to the different sounds, the cadences of the language, and it is sinking in at night and at day. I was never frightened of going out of my comfort zone and speaking to French people and all sorts of people, because there's not just French people in France. As you know, there's all sorts of different cultures, and I like that. I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up in the States as well, because even though I was born in London, I grew up and I went to school in the States until I was 18. And so the culture in the States is more like the culture in France. People are more, I would say, they're more easy to talk to, and English, it's different. It's a different culture.
I do hear similar comments from people about the British culture and the French culture not going as well together as other people from other cultures.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is actually real, because I'm British. I don't know that. I don't know what it's like to be American. Your accent is American, a bit American.
Yeah, I feel very much a combination of, in my origins feel very American and very English in some other aspects. But I've been living here now for nearly 28 years. I think it's 28 years this year in January. And so I feel French in many ways, in my way of living and stuff like that. But I still feel very connected to my American roots and the English part of me too, which is, it's great. It's interesting. It's true. A lot of French people automatically assume that often that you're English. And as soon as you say you're from Scotland or you're from the States, they're more friendly sometimes. I don't know why that is, but I have to agree. I've noticed that too. Yeah.
Maybe I could do an American accent and tell people I'm American and see
Oh.
if change. Because I don't know, I feel that people are very friendly with me and they like the British thing. They enjoy it. That's what I've done. And they want to practice their English, and they like the royal family. They watch The Crown. It's very. I've never felt that that there's a difficulty with being British.
Yeah. I think it's changed now because a lot of French people go to London when they're young and they want to study and work, and they love it because it's open and easy for working for themselves, finding a job. So it seems to me today in 2022, there are a lot more French and English people going back and forth between the countries. I know since Brexit, it's more difficult, but whereas in 1994, there weren't that many British people setting up in France and not that many French people setting up in the UK.
I'd like to know more about your work, what you do for work. Are you self-employed?
Yeah, I'm self-employed. I actually came over to this country wanting to write, which I did for a while, and did lots of different work, cleaning sheets, secretarial work and stuff. And then several years ago, I decided to start doing energetic healing. So I set up working for myself as an auto-entrepreneur in April of 2013. And I started doing reconnective healing, Eric Pearl's method. And then after that, at the same time, just a little bit after that, I started proposing tarot readings and guidance readings as a medium. So that's something I've had within me all of my life. And I've always been passionate about tarot cards, and the connection, receiving information for people on an intuitive level to keep it simple. And so that I started doing that as well. And then after that, I also added to my work doing regressions. So helping people understand their past lives, why they've come into their current life, to understand the relationships, family, all sorts of things, even health issues. And so we discover through their past lives and other things why they've had certain issues and what they need to do to change their life around. And so that's called QHHT, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique by Dolores Cannon. And so I propose that in person at my home, and I do other regression therapies online of a different method. So that's those are my three basic services, and I love my work. And I work from home. I've got a space to receive people in my home, and I've been doing that for several years now, and I really, really enjoy it.
If someone's watching this and they would like to do the same thing, move to France and do a similar activity as you, what would they need to do?
To set up doing the work, you would go, you'd set up as an auto-entrepreneur is what I would recommend, because it's the easiest. And then you, for qualifications, you don't need specific qualifications for energy healing, for example, or for work as a medium. Most of the people come through me through word of mouth. I work abroad as well. When I say I work abroad, I have people from far away that contact me, and we do I do guidance readings for them online. But you can do any sort of regression work training and get a certificate and work here. You don't have to pass any exams or anything to do so. Saying that, I've heard that some people in medical professions or other, they have to have their certificates have to be looked at, or they're not accepted like they used to be. So I don't know what it is with that, but I would say it's quite easy. You set up as an auto-entrepreneur, and either you rent a little space, or you have a room in your house like I do, where you receive clients and you get the appropriate insurance for the house and the work. And yeah, you set up your website. Your website needs to be set up in French, and you need to have what's called a SIRE number, which is what you get through INSEE when you set up as an auto-entrepreneur. And yeah, and then every month you make your online declarations of how much you've earned and everything, and that's quite simple.
So auto-entrepreneur,
yeah,
professionnel libéral, is it the same thing? Micro-entreprise?
Yeah, the micro entrepreneur and auto entrepreneur are basically the same thing. But if you are, it's quite complicated, the codes and everything. So how can I explain it? You go on to auto entrepreneur if it's work as a thérapeute or in the bien-être, a holistic practitioner, like they're Reiki practitioners, massage therapists, and you sign up as that. That's the easiest way. If you're a nurse or a teacher or other, I'm not sure how that goes. It can be complicated, and it's probably best to speak to English people like myself for my work, which is a great question you asked this, because now people will know you just go set up as auto-entrepreneur. But if you're an acupuncturist, for example, or other sorts of alternative health practices, you do need to check what the rules are for that. Because I think to be an acupuncturist in this country, if you learn somewhere else, there may be different rules.
I'm surprised that hypnotherapy or your area doesn't need some kind of qualification.
Well, that's interesting you said, because what I do hypnosis. I don't do medical hypnotherapy. With the acupuncture, I think there is maybe something you need medical-wise. Reflexology, I know a few people who do reflexology, and they just set up with their certificate on auto-entrepreneur.
What's the difference between hypnosis and hypnotherapy?
Well, that's a good question. I think that when you are classified as a hypnotherapist, you follow the state that, like, the hypnosis, the Ericksonian hypnosis, is considered a hypnotherapist, and there's a certain learning, a certain number of months, and a certain credentials that allow you to classify yourself as hypnotherapist. But I'm technically I'm a practitioner of hypnosis, and I've got 3 different qualifications. but I did not go through the technical French studying route to do that. So yeah, you need to make sure how you classify yourself. And yeah, so I'm under the 8690F, which is médecin classé non alternatif or classé d'ailleurs. I can't remember how it's said, but I fall under that category for my regression work and the energy healing work. And then for my guidance readings work, which is as a medium and using the tarot, I'm under 9609Z. So I don't know if that interests your readers to know that, but yeah, these little details, they're there. They're quite easy to eventually find out about. But yeah, it's quite easy to set up as an auto-entrepreneur. I've heard people say that setting up as a portage salarié or other, or an SARL, is more complicated and expensive. So, you know, you pay a percentage of what you earn through the auto-entrepreneur system, and I find it's really easy and practical.
So this is potentially something that people could move to France to set up their own small business, even in the expat world in Paris or places where there are lots of expats, and do something like this as a job.
It can take a while to get set up. I mean, most of my clients are French, simply because when I set up, I've been living here a number of years, and most of my friends and the people around me are French. But if you come over as an English person, yeah, you probably want to get in contact with the groups, the English groups a bit. And being on Facebook with my work page and on my websites in both languages means that, you know, people, they find me easily through when I write in English on my website or on my page. So yeah, I would suggest people setting up who don't have much French to start learning French and integrating so they can speak both languages. Because as you say, a lot of French people, they like English and they like speaking English, but it's good to have the both languages to propose to French and to English people. You know, it's good.
When did you first start doing what you do, the regression and the spiritual work? When did you first realize that was a thing, that you had this ability?
The mediumship, when I say mediumship, receiving information for people and guidance in the tarot, since I was little, I always was connected to that and loved it. I was the only one in my family that I know of that was really into that. The healing work came through in my early 40s when I was wanting to change work. And some clients one day said to me, after having started the energy healing work and then doing my tarot and guidance readings, they said, "Oh, have you ever thought of proposing past life regressions?" And I said no, because, you know, I'm very open to that and always believed in that. But it wasn't until I read a book by Dolores Cannon, who talks about not only going to past lives, but connecting to the higher self, the inner part of us that has all the answers that we need, which is our intuition, to keep it simple and basic. It's our gut instinct, our intuition, whatever you want to call it. It's that little inner knowing voice. And with this method, the QHHT is guiding people to listen to that inner voice, which I thought was great. And that's why I decided to propose QHHT, because it's not telling people what to do from my opinion or anyone else's. The person's connected to their own inner knowing, which is very empowering. And it's more, it's stronger and more powerful because the person is receiving the information themselves. They're living it, they're feeling it emotionally. They're connecting lots of dots. So like someone in a current life maybe has problems with the stomach and is heartbroken most of the time, and is maybe shown by her soul a past life in a war where she was stabbed in the stomach, and as well with the heartbreak. She had problems with a mother in a past life who's someone in her life today. And so when we see those things, the person who's receiving the information, and I record the information on my dictaphone so they can take it home and listen to it afterwards, they're connecting things. They're saying, in their mind, they're realizing, this person who stabbed me in the war in the past life is this person today in my life, maybe a boss who they're having trouble with, and maybe with the heartbreak, they're realizing that that person is their mother today, or etc. And so they're making big realizations and understanding why they're maybe behaving in certain ways that aren't really, when I say appropriate, that are maybe exaggerated, you know? So maybe they got these great fears or these other problems that are more intense and exaggerated because of these other past life connections or childhood issues too, because most of what we live in our current life that's difficult, we find the roots in our childhood. It's helping basically people, all my work is helping people to connect to their own inner knowing and to help them learn to heal themselves. That's what it's about. You know, every session is different. And so the person, when they come for a session, they get exactly what they need. So sometimes it's just one past life. Sometimes it's several past lives. Sometimes they're taken to visit the time when they're in their mother's womb. And lots of stuff happens when we're in the mother's womb. Sometimes they're taken back before incarnating, often to childhood as well. And sometimes these memories are brought to the surface. But I let the person connect and get that information themselves without taking them to a traumatic event, because our subconscious and our soul protect us. When it's the right time to know something, we'll know and be guided to it. And that's what happens in these sessions. So each session is different. So we never know where we're going to go. And sometimes people will say, oh, I had something happen to me, and I know it was really bad, and maybe they were raped or beaten up. And I want to go back and I want to find out if that was true. And so I say to people, well, look, I can't promise you that because I don't take people back to see that. If your soul wants you to see that, you will be taken to see that. In this session, we start talking about their life until today for a couple hours before they close their eyes. And even before making the appointment, I talk to people, make sure, you know, to understand what they're looking for, if I can actually help them or refer them to someone else. And really, you know, before they even come for the session. Yeah, it's very important to know that, you know, when we're protected from remembering certain things, it's supposed to be like that for a certain amount of time.
So, have you had any difficulties with living in France? Have you had any hurdles, let's say, for anything, for your business, for your personal life, just because of living in France?
For my personal life, I would say, I'm just trying to think, well, any hurdles? I wouldn't call it a hurdle, but I would say when you're buying your own home, in England, people buy to invest and make money. In this country, I was quite disappointed that when I bought my house, it didn't have much more worth 10 years later than after I bought it. But that's okay. That's not why I bought the house. So I would say if there's any hurdles, it's not a place where you come to invest and make lots of money like in England, like in London. It's not at all like that. Well, there's paperwork like there is in every country. So getting used to the French paperwork, you know, it took me a little while, but now it's easier. Except everything's online now. So if you want to go to an office, administrative office, it's not quite as easy as it used to be. Any other hurdles? I live a bit in the country. So before, when I lived in London, whenever I wanted to go out, I could just go out and see a film and everything was always open. So here is a much more relaxed pace of life. And even in the big cities, when I've gone to Paris, I love Paris. It's very friendly, and there's something very friendly and villagey about it. It's a different feeling than in London. It's more laid back and I mean, even Paris, right? But where I live, which is I live in a very small village near a small town. Things are closed on Mondays, though they're starting to open more and more, some of the shops. It's a more relaxed pace of life. So when you call out a plumber or a builder, and they say they're going to be over at a certain time, sometimes a little bit later, or, it's a different culture. Hurdle or advice I could give to anyone is to learn French quickly, to know what it is they want in life, because some people they have an idea what the countryside's like. Maybe that's something I can share very quickly, is when I came out here in 1994. At the time, we'd just left London and we said, we want to live in the country and everything. It's going to be great. Well, we lived so far out in the country. We're far away from everything. If the car breaks down, you've got to wait a couple of days to get it fixed. It's not, things like that. And do you really want to live stuck in the middle of nowhere, an hour away from everything? So I would say when they're looking to buy properties or move, to come out and visit and live for a while before deciding, because there's lots of beautiful countryside all over France, really amazing. But, make sure you're living not too isolated, or maybe not too close to a big town. Yeah.
What's the name of the village that you live in?
Duel, which is spelled Douelle.
I just came here. I was in the Pyrenees. So I think
that's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's on your side of France. I was near to a village called Luchon.
Yes, I know Luchon. That's a little bit in the mountains, and I think you can go in where they're like the hot spas and stuff. Yeah.
Luchon was the village, but we were at the top of the mountain.
Oh wow!
A resort called Peragude, and it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's stunning, and I'd never seen the scenery like that before. But I remember thinking, do British people know about this place? Is this like a hidden gem? I didn't see any Brits at all. But now I've heard that things have changed, that there are many more Brits everywhere, that there is actually a British community now in all parts of rural France, and so it's not undiscovered anymore. This was about 10 years ago.
Yeah, what you just said is really interesting, Leila, because there are lots of unhidden gems. There's lots of undiscovered hidden gems in this country. And what I quickly noticed after living here, I'm starting to travel around for visiting friends and stuff, is each department, like there's a lot department, the Tarn-et-Garonne, your department, is like a universe, a world in its own. So like when you go to Brittany, I love Brittany. It's a completely different world than if you go to the Basque country. And that's just so gorgeous too, Saint-Jean-de-Luz. And then if you go up into Normandy, or you go up into Strasbourg, Lyon, it's all different. It is. It's like it's a hidden gem. Yeah, definitely.
I think the thing is, the thing that people have to think about if they want to move to France is, how far are you going to be from the amenities, really? This is the practical thing, because you must have a car, and then how much money will you have to spend on petrol every month? This is what life ends up being.
That's what I learned in the first few years coming here, was I didn't have a great car, and the petrol was expensive, and we were trying to save money. And in fact, you learn through experience. So yeah.
Also, there's the thing of the health system, where's the nearest hospital? Where are the doctors? If you're very far from the hospital, how's that going to affect your life? It's just things like that. It's those little practical things that you might not think about when you're looking at properties, you know, in another country where everything's on your doorstep. You don't imagine what it would be like if there's no doctor for you know, if you have to travel for an hour to see a doctor. I just want to say thank you very much. Thank you for joining me today, and it's been really interesting. I'm going to link your website and your email below. So thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
See the light that's coming in. I'm trying to get away from this light because if I do this,
you get the eyes all coming in, the light coming into your eyes.